Hi everyone, Eric here, and I am going to give my persuasive speech topic on increasing the amount of nuclear power utilized in the United States. Now I know what some of you might be thinking, nuclear power, isn't that unsafe? And I will say no. In fact, has the potential to be safer, more reliable, and more environmentally friendly than fossil fuels. I'll also say that while I am an environmental engineer and I love renewable energy sources, at this point in time, they really aren't feasible to cope with the just massive amount of demand that we have. They are unfortunately not cheap enough or efficient enough to meet the increasing demand. So, to start out with, I am going to give a brief explanation of how nuclear power works, and it is rather simple. You have fuel rods containing uranium-235, which is usually placed in a pool of water. The rods are then bombarded with neutrons, which causes fission. This produces lighter elements and also a great deal of energy in the form of heat. This heats up the water, which turns into steam, and that steam will spin a turbine and generate electricity. And that's pretty much it right there. Should we know that this is a closed system and nothing radioactive is released into the atmosphere. Pretty much all radioactive waste is able to be sealed off in casks and then transported to a geologically stable area where it will then be sealed. So radioactive waste for the most part will never enter into the water table or into the atmosphere or really ever be interacted with by humans ever again. Now this is in stark contrast to fossil fuels, which every year their power plants generate millions of tons of CO2 and other greenhouse gases into the atmosphere. Now, this isn't to say that nuclear power is entirely greenhouse gas free, unfortunately. It produces about 63% less power than 63% less fossil fuel, 63% less greenhouse gas than fossil fuels. And it does this during the primarily the mining, enrichment, and transport phases, which I'll talk about a little bit right now. And mining, unfortunately, is really practically impossible to environmentally friendly, to a point where I would not call uranium mining environmentally friendly compared to fossil fuels. It is simply the lesser of evils. Now, uranium mining is really done quite traditionally, either with a shaft or open pit, and is relatively not nearly as bad as coal, which will also utilize something called mountaintop removal mining, which, as the name implies, a coal company will drill holes into a mountaintop, set explosives, and basically blow several hundred feet off the top of that mountain in order to get at coal seams to mine them. Now, all that excess rock has to go somewhere, and unfortunately it usually ends up in rivers and creeks, blocking them up and utterly destroying them, devastating the surrounding environment for decades to come. And then there is also fracking for natural gas, in which fluid is injected into a drilled well, which will crack the shale rock and release natural gas. Now, this would be good if the gas only went up to where we want it to, where we can harvest it, but it really spreads out. It will get into the water table, into the surrounding land, and really devastate it for decades on end as well. It also is starting to cause earthquakes in previously seismologically stable areas. So that's rather unfortunate. Another thing to note about uranium mining in general, and uranium in general, to say, is you get a lot more bang for your buck in terms of energy content. Now, a ton of coal will produce about 6,150 megawatt hours of electricity per ton. And compare this to enriched uranium, it'll produce about 2 billion, making it by far the most efficient source of power in terms of material energy content. So, really, if the debate about nuclear power was just about the environmental concerns, it would easily win. Unfortunately, there are other problems with it, and one of the big ones being is terrorism. particularly with concerns about stealing, terrorists stealing nuclear material in order to create a weapon of mass destruction. Thankfully, most of those fears are unfounded, as the uranium used in nuclear power generation is about 3 to 5% uranium-235. In order to properly weaponize uranium, in order to use it as a bomb or something, you typically need about 80% plus uranium-235, and the facilities to process that really is beyond the scope of most terrorist organizations and countries. The other big concern is accidents, and these names, 3 Mile Island, Chernobyl, and more recently Fukushima, really are on everyone's list. They're all well known. And even though nuclear power has drastically improved in the past several decades, unfortunately, if proper safety measures aren't taken, disasters really do become inevitable. And in this case, I will talk about Fukushima for a bit. The plant itself actually survived the initial earthquake that hit and was starting to go into shutdown mode. But the seawall that the plant had was only about 19 feet high. The tsunami that hit the plant was 46 feet high. So the plant flooded, and the backup power generators that were helping cool down the plant were cut off, causing the core to overheat and disaster and explosions to happen. Now, it should be noted that the fact that the seawall was too low in the event of a disaster was noted and on record for the plant, but nothing was done about it. Now, compare this to the Onagawa nuclear plant. Now, this nuclear plant, also in Japan, was actually closer to the epicenter of the earthquake, and it survived just fine. It went through the earthquake, just like Fukushima, for the most part undamaged, and was in automatic shutdown mode when the tsunami hit. However, its seawall was 46 feet high, the same height as the tsunami, so it was able to survive with minimal flooding damage and was able to shut down safely. So to shut down safely, and actually could go back online today, but unfortunately after Fukushima, pretty much all 54 of Japan's nuclear power plants closed. And in order to cover for this energy imbalance, fossil fuels have to be imported, greatly increasing the environmental impact, and also costing Japanese power companies about $37 billion additional annually a year in costs. And it's important to note that when comparing Fukushima and Onagawa, nuclear power wasn't really a danger, it was hubris. So, in conclusion, nuclear power is safer and more environmentally friendly than fossil fuels, and until renewable power sources like solar and wind can really come into their own and be both cost efficient and able to be utilized on a wide scale, nuclear power is going to be our best defense against global warming, and really our best hope for a better future for both ourselves and our descendants. Thank you.